Hi, so I want to make a quick video today talking about the breakdown of dividend versus income if you're a freelance worker. This is mainly for the UK, I guess. There are lots of videos on YouTube talking about the optimal strategy, the optimum salary to pay yourself as a freelancer, and they generally have the same message and it's consistent. And the message from me is going to be the same. What I want to add, because I haven't seen many videos, if any, actually sort of showing the evidence of the fact that recommendation is the case in terms of what is the optimum salary to pay yourself in the year 2023-24. And also I'll be doing it in an Excel spreadsheet which you guys can actually download and use, because I've seen a lot of comments in other videos saying it would be really useful to actually to be able to see evidence of this breakdown and to be able to play around with different scenarios. So what if I change the income versus dividend, and to be able to eyeball those in a table. So I'm going to be also using the formulas that I discussed in a different video to calculate the dividend tax and income tax. These are Excel sort of user-defined functions which I've also shared. They are embedded in the Excel, so if you want to use the Excel, those functions are in the Excel as well. So without further ado, let's have a quick look. All right, so here we are in the Excel. This is the Excel that you can download. I'm going to link it below so you can play around with it and modify it, etc., to your heart's content. Please test it before you make any decisions based on the numbers here. I'm not an accountant. I am and I'm not a financial advisor. I have done a fair amount of testing, but just please bear that in mind. So down here, let's start with it. So this box here shows the sort of the global parameters, right? So we're just setting some assumptions around the total revenue, the expenses, other income from other sources because the model takes that into account, and other dividends from other sources as well, right? Because obviously, realistically, the decision about what you want to do here does depend on everything combined, right? So it's a fairly comprehensive model. Then we've got some constants down here for the year 2023-24. So we've got the primary threshold and the for NI. We've got the rates for NI. We've got the LEL NI threshold, and I've also assumed that we're going to, for example, an accountancy fee of £1,000 a year. So all that kind of stuff. So you can play around with those. And then in the top table here, what we have is a list of, so for that revenue, a table of different scenarios whereby we're paying ourselves different percentages of that revenue as a salary, and then obviously what it does then is calculate, well, what would the remaining dividend be, and calculate the tax on that, and ultimately it gives you, at the end, it gives you net proceeds. So what's the actual take-home money that you're gonna have in your hand at the end of the day or year, right? So let's just quickly walk through from left to right along one row and explain the fields quickly. There are lots of really good videos already explaining exactly, in this tax year 2023-24, what the thresholds are, etc. I'm not going to go into too much detail there, but we start with with the revenue. That's the top line. Then we've got the salary that we're paying ourselves coming out of the company into our as income, which will be taxed on personally. We've got an indicator as to whether at that salary level we will be eligible for state pension credit for that tax year. We ideally want that to be true, so there's a bit of a threshold that we really want to cross if possible. Then we've got obviously we have this is the total income that we're receiving personally for that year. So it's that's where we bring in the income from the other sources down here, so from side hustles or whatever, right? That's the income tax we're paying. So obviously that doesn't kick in at all until we get out above our personal allowance. Just so quick shout out to myself here, I guess, a little bit. This is the income tax formula, the personal sort of user-defined function that is embedded within this Excel, which you'll have access to if you download it. If you don't want to use a macro-enabled Excel, you can. I've got the source code below for the function, so you can just set it up as a macro, as a user-defined function if you want, right? So income tax is calculated based, and note that we're passing the dividend into that as well, because the dividend, as discussed in the previous video, the dividend that you earn in a given year gets combined with your earned income to actually determine what your personal tax allowance is. So technically, both of those things need to be taken into account. Then we've got the two types of national insurance, which are the employer's NI, which is going to be paid by your limited company, is calculated here, and then your employee's NI, which is going to be paid by you personally, depending on the income that you take. Those are both calculated there, right? So one of those is an expense of the business. The other one is a tax that you pay as an individual, right? Your net income is your personal net income is your gross income minus the income tax minus the employees NI. We use that later on in the formula. Your expenses is just a constant, right? I've just fixed that at 2,000. You can change that. Accountancy fees is a constant. So deductions basically is just these are the deductions that you're allowed to take off the revenue before you determine your earnings, which you're going to pay corporation tax on. So you've got the expenses and the salary and the employer's NI and the accounting fees as deductions, right? So we've got gross profit there, which is the revenue minus deductions. So then we have the corporation tax, which is taxed on your gross profit, and that gives you your net profit. So then we have a dividend payout ratio. I'm just for this model, I'm assuming that you're going to pay out all of your dividends as all of your profits as dividends. Beg your pardon. So here we've got our gross dividend over here. And then this is where we bring in the dividend from other sources. So let's say you have a stock portfolio or whatever, which is giving dividends. You technically need to report those together. So I've just set those as 0 for the moment. So these numbers are identical. So then we have our total earnings, right? So this is what's going to determine the personal tax allowance. Essentially, that's the combination of our total earned income and total dividend, right? As individuals, right? Dividend tax. So this is the other user-defined function that I've written, which is embedded inside this Excel. And again, I've got the source code for this dividend tax formula. It's a bit of a beast. It's a bit of a tricky formula. So it's nice to have it tucked away in a function. And that takes the income and the dividend as parameters. Again, the reason why we have to tell the formula what the income is because, again, the personal tax allowance is an important number in this, and that requires us to combine the earned income and the dividend in one number. Then we get our net dividend, right, which is obviously the gross dividend minus the dividend tax, and then the net proceeds is just the net income and the net dividend, right? So that gives us for 100,000 revenue with these expenses for the year, for these different combinations of input sort of percentage of salary and therefore these actual salary numbers, it gives us how much we're going to actually take home in our pocket, right? So just to, no surprise, as most videos point out, for the 2023-2024 tax year, the say optimal salary, assuming you don't like paying tax, is 12,570, right? And if we just change the last row here to 50%, so we can see the impact of, let's say, paying ourselves a much larger portion of that salary, we can see that the overall net proceeds are 60,000. So quite a significant drop from the peak or optimal value of 65,000. So I just wanted to finally validate the numbers, right? Make sure they tie out. I'm going to compare the numbers calculated here with one of the online calculators, right? So if we take an income that actually incurs some income tax, so just to make the calculation a bit more involved, so let's take the £16,000 salary, which is 16% of the revenue, and let's have a look at the let's have a look at the breakdown, right? So the gross dividend or the net profit is 62,585.13, and which is indeed shown here, 62,585 £13, and you can see the breakdown here. So the employer's and national insurance, you can see over here matches, right? Corporation tax matches over here 17,462,67, and all that kind of stuff. So you can play around with this yourself and validate. I'll link to this calculator below as well. It's a very good one. It gives you the full breakdown, right? So yeah, that was my little video, just I guess highlighting and repeating the message that yes, this year the optimum salary is 12,570 to minimize your overall tax, and here's an Excel which hopefully you can play around with, and just validate it yourself. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions or comments or feedback or requests for other videos on this topic, and thanks for watching.